It is our job to teach clients not just what their pet needs, but why they need it so that they're, again, open, candid conversations. I think we need to learn how to listen more and talk less.
Welcome to the Veterinary Insider Podcast. This podcast is for the entrepreneurial veterinarian looking for expert advice and resources to help their businesses grow. Today's episode will feature Dr. Peter Weinstein. Dr. Peter Weinstein is a respected voice in veterinary leadership, having served as past president of the Southern California VMA, the California VMA, and Veterinary Partners. He is the co-author of the E-Myth Veterinarian and founder of the Veterinary Ownership Advocates, as well as Simple Solutions for Vets. Today we'll be talking about how pet owners can better afford care and how veterinary teams can actually present treatment options and also options for finances. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that we can invite other experts like Peter Weinstein to our podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is your host, Dr. Christy Cornelius of the Veterinary Insider Podcast. The episode this week will be A Lifetime of Care, Making Pet Care Accessible with Dr. Peter Weinstein. In this episode of the Veterinary Insider Podcast, we'll sit down with renowned veterinary business consultant, Dr. Peter Weinstein. We're going to explore the realities of lifetime pet care costs and how veterinary teams can empower clients through education, transparency, and financing solutions. Together, we will discuss how educating clients through proactive conversations about cost and financing solutions can help both pet families and practices through their entire care journey, from wellness to end of life. Whether you're a practice owner, associate veterinarian, or veterinary support team member, this episode delivers essential insights for creating a client experience rooted in compassion, clarity, and accessibility. This episode is proudly sponsored by Care Credit. The Health and Pet Care Credit is a card trusted by veterinary teams and pet parents alike. Care Credit offers flexible financing solutions to help make care possible today, tomorrow, and through every stage of your pet's life. Learn more at carecredit.com/vetinsights. So, as we had mentioned before, let's welcome our guest, Dr. Peter Weinstein. Dr. Peter Weinstein is a respected voice in veterinary leadership, having served as past president of the Southern California VMA and the Veterinary Hospital Managers Association. He is co-author of the E-Myth Veterinarian and founder of the Veterinary Success Network and Veterinary Ownership Advocates. His mission is to improve the lives of animals, pet owners, and veterinary teams by improving the business of veterinary medicine. Welcome, Peter.
Dr. Cornelius, such a pleasure. If you don't mind, I'll call you Christy, though.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. It's good to be talking to you once again in a short period of time. So always a joy. So I'm always end up learning something. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's start with setting the stage a little bit. And let me ask you, if you can walk us through what the concept of lifetime care means in veterinary medicine and why it's becoming more important to communicate this to pet owners.
I would like to say veterinary medicine is a relationship service-based industry. And so when we're looking at relationships, we're looking at relationships that extend from a puppy or kittenhood all the way through end of life. If we were just transactional, we would focus on the client that's in front of us, the patient that's in front of us, just at that one point in time. But I do think it's important for us as healthcare providers and healthcare teams to talk to clients about the entire spectrum of their pet's life, from kittenhood or puppyhood or adulthood, whenever we start seeing them, all the way through end of life care. And so when we're talking about lifetime care, it's really setting a roadmap, programming the mental GPS of the client as to what to expect for each visit from the first time that they come in until whenever that last visit may be. So I think it should not be just focused on the visit that's here today, but we should be looking at letting clients know what to expect on the next visit, the next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And I think that's what relationship building is all about. And veterinary medicine should be a relationship based business. And that means focusing on not one period of time, but the entire lifetime of care.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Peter. From your experience, where do most pet owners underestimate the financial responsibilities of caring for a pet from puppyhood to kittenhood through end of life?
There's so much that goes into raising a child, and there's so much that goes into raising a pet. And I think sometimes we're more cognizant about the cost of raising a child, and we don't recognize that raising a pet is the same thing. And so we've got basic well care when the animal is not showing any medical conditions. We've got care that occurs as a result of aging. We have care that occurs as a result of breed specific issues that may arise. And we have accident and injury. And so, care credit in their lifetime of care study, right here, those of you can see it at lifetimeofcare.com, um, showed all the different things that go into the life of a pet. Sometimes it's interesting, pet owners only think about food and grooming or toys. But what about veterinary care? What about doggy daycare? What about boarding if they're traveling and vacationing from that standpoint? So I think the underestimate of care comes from the fact that these are living, breathing organisms. They're not just kept on a shelf and they get themselves into trouble. They need to be fed, they need to be cared for. And it's really a multifactorial component that allows us to take care of them as veterinarians. And so I think it's part of our responsibility is to help a pet owner understand all of the nuances of raising a purebred, a mixed breed, a cat, a dog, et cetera, from that standpoint. And the lifetime of care study kind of points out the expected and the unexpected. I think a lot of pet owners don't recognize the unexpected. The Labrador that ate the pantyhose, the cat that ate the tinsel, um, and the fact that some of the foods that we give pets, unless clients are aware, can be quite toxic. And there are things around the house that are quite toxic. So you've got basic care, you've got accident and injury, you've got age-related care, and I think many pet owners don't think that through that whole spectrum from that standpoint.
Yeah, and they probably don't understand how many of these cases we actually see across the country every year, and how common they actually are relative to their misunderstanding of what can happen. So, in your consulting work with veterinary practices, how do you address the challenges that a lot of team members have with communicating costs to clients?
There, I joke that when I was in practice, there were two things that were highly stressful. One was a fat dog spay. The other was having to have a conversation with the client of a high estimate or a high invoice because they're both stressful. They're both very difficult to me from a communication standpoint. As a consultant, my approach and my in talking to practices is that there should be no surprises when it comes down to the communication of the cost of care, which means a practice needs to have a financial policy for the practice, and they should have a communicated financial policy to the clients that clearly communicates to the client what to expect when it comes down to the care, whether that will be an estimate, when the updates would be if that estimate is not going to be, um, if something has come up from an estimated standpoint. It should include payment options that they can choose from that include long-term payment options in a proactive standpoint, for example, pet health insurance, and even um, care credit, where you can have a line of credit to use should you have a need from that standpoint. So I think it's important that we're completely transparent, that there are no surprises, because that's when we get ourselves into trouble. If we are not clear, concise, and explaining what to expect to the client, something comes up. And we all know that clients don't normally absorb everything we say, so it needs to be repeated. You should have a financial policy on your website. It should be communicated, especially with new clients on the first visit, and it should be clearly communicated during a patient visit from that standpoint. And most importantly, everybody's got to be singing the same song. Everybody in the practice should be giving the same answers to the questions that come up, and that there is continuity and congruity in every messaging through every team member, through the website, and everything that goes on in the practice, so that there are no surprises.
Yeah, those are really good tips. I know with any amount of ambiguity, people start to ask questions and then you're asking another person before you've got to answer another person, because, if you have any sort of nuances or different rules for different people, it just becomes really hard and it's harder to scale, using those practices. So let's switch over to some challenges for pet owners and some practices. And so, given that Synchrony's recent study shows lifetime costs for dogs can reach $55,000, how do we as industry help clients prepare for their realities early on?
Some 20, 25 years ago, I did a off the wall presentation for a group of veterinarians, and it was just me thinking differently. And I was thinking differently because maybe I just had purchased a new car, and in the glove box in the car was a manual of how to use the car with suggestions on oil change and tune up and rotating tires, et cetera, et cetera. And we have similar suggestions with other non living resources that we have in our house. Maybe it's changing the air conditioning vents or whatever. But what I hadn't seen, and this is what the premise of the talk was, we don't have a user's manual for pets, which basically defines what we expect from a healthy wellness standpoint throughout the life of the pet. So I did a talk that was entitled Creating a User's Manual for Pet Owners, which is all about what we want as veterinarians for our practice. This would be a standard for your own practice that talks about puppies. We see this, 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 and this. Then we do a desexing procedure, and then we see them back, et cetera. And when they're 2 years old, and what do we want to see when they're 2 years old? What do we want to see when they're 3 years old, 7 years old, 11 years old? And so what we don't lay out for a pet owner is what to expect on the veterinary side of things. I can't talk about nutrition. I can't talk about other things, but I can talk about from a clinical standpoint. I know as a veterinarian what I expect to see from a wellness. So each year, I want to see a pet back twice a year, up until a certain age, three times a year at a certain age, 4 times a year. Why don't we communicate that ahead of time and let clients know? Well, we'll be doing an exam here, we'll be doing vaccinations here, whatever it is. So we give the clients then a roadmap that shows them from a medical standpoint how we can prevent disease, talks about flea and tick, and I, in the user's manual concept, also integrated um, breed specific or even mixed breed specific conditions that might occur that we should be screening for as well. So how do we address $55,000 in lifetime costs? By again giving clients expectations. Now, a portion of those 55,000 are the veterinary costs, but we know what they should be. Again, that doesn't include accident and illness that might occur, but it's really focusing on wellness and laying out a roadmap through a user's manual that clearly defines what to expect each visit. And again, this will be customized for the practice, for the client, for the breed of the pet, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of a pet owner's manual. I think it's really a great thing to have with every practice. Do you have a resource available that we as veterinarians can access?
I wish I did, but when I sold my practice, I
Okay.
left it behind. And so I do a great talk on it. Plus, every practice is different. And if you're in a community that is financially challenged, you may have a different approach than if you're in a community that is high end and everything in between. So you have to customize the outline for your practice. If you're in a heartworm endemic area, you may be having one conversation. Then if you're in a community that has a big problem with Lyme disease, so you have to create a customized manual based upon where your practice is and based upon the demographics of your clientele.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking in my head, Peter, create a chat GPT prompt that we can use and we can just, go from there. We can enter in our little differences and, things like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely encourage our veterinarians to come and see you speak wherever you're at. We all have something to learn, and I think that's a great lesson. So thank you. Um, Veterinary teams often find themselves caught between wanting to provide gold standard care and navigating a pet owner's financial constraints. What strategies have you seen to help bridge this gap?
Great question. And I think one of the first questions that veterinary practices should ask a pet owner on their welcome to the practice form is, where does your pet sleep? What we're trying to do is find out the relationship within the household of where the pet fits from that standpoint. Now, I'm not suggesting that the answer will change how you present the care, but I do think it's always interesting to get that information. So number one. Number two, we need to be understanding that there are multiple ways to treat multiple conditions. There's more than one way to treat parvo, there's more than one way to treat a cruciate, and there's frequently more than one way to deal with kidney failure, et cetera. And so the tendency is to focus on optimal care, the so-called gold standard from that standpoint. And that's because we tend to practice a little bit in a defensive fashion as well. So I think it's important that in a practice setting, that the doctors, if you're in a multi-doctor hospital, the doctors and techs, and everybody get together and understand that we have to accommodate the client's needs as well. And if we don't meet the client's needs, we can't take care of the patient's needs from that standpoint. We also know that clients come in with high levels of anxiety just walking into a veterinary hospital. Clients have a panic attack, according to the lifetime of care study. 25% of the clients worry about an invoice of $250. 46% worry about an invoice of $500. So 50% of your clients are concerned about just kind of basically walking into your practice even before you start to talk about patient needs from that standpoint. So going back to this concept of financial policy and financial plan, um, I think that's where transparency comes in. Day one, you start to talk about enrolling pets in pet health insurance. Day one, you start enrolling patients before you need care credit. You get them enrolled from that standpoint. And you constantly talk to clients about financial options. Is it that you can't afford it today? If we have some options that might make it more affordable, can we spread this out over time? Are all services needed to be done today? If it's a pet that's in a wellness situation, can we break up a big elephant into more bite-sized pieces from that standpoint? Dental care is a big condition that we deal with. And dental care, if you look at things like lab work and radiographs and everything else, can add up very quickly. But if we could split that dental care up into blood work today and dental care a month down the road, maybe we can make it more palatable and more accessible from that standpoint. And so I think it's making sure that the team understands the anxiety levels clients have. I think it's important that staff members do not assume that clients can or cannot afford, and that we have open conversations with clients that explains to them what their pet needs and why. And I think that's where we tend to have dropped the ball in the past, is that we have all sorts of online resources that tell pet owners what not to do or what to do. It is our job to teach clients not just what their pet needs, but why they need it so that they're, again, open, candid conversations. I think we need to learn how to listen more and talk less.
Yeah, I agree. So I hear a lot of talk about offering tiered systems and, presenting estimates and things like that. Is that something that you ascribe to, or do you think that it should be more custom than that?
I don't think I would be comfortable walking up to a client and saying, "So, what you got in your wallet today? We'll take it all." Don't misinterpret that statement for those people who hear it. That was supposed to be sarcastic. If you don't know me, I'm sarcastic. But I do think it's important to gauge a client. I think we need to learn how to read body language. I think we need to be able to gauge where a client feels and make sure that they understand what we're presenting to them. Nervousness, anxiety, and recognizing that half the clients who are in your exam room are worried about the invoice at $500 or less. I think it's extremely important that we gauge clients. I think we have to make them feel comfortable and we have to make sure that all their questions are answered. I think one of the things I always did before leaving the exam room is I would turn to the client and I would say, um, do you understand why we need to do everything we need to do today? And do you have any questions that I can answer for you? Now, you might assume that the most common question is, how much is it going to cost? Which is very good, and assume that because it's true. The most common question we got was, how much is it going to cost? And then it's how you address that question and making sure that they understand the needs of the pet and speaking to those needs, and then being able to pivot, for lack of a better term, if necessary, to address the financial concerns from that standpoint. Understanding anxiety, I think repetition is extremely important, but more important is asking questions. Create a series of questions for you as a doctor or staff members to ask clients to kind of gauge where they are so that you can go and work at their level with them to make sure that they understand what the conversation is.
Yeah, good points. Thank you. Um, let's take a little bit deeper dive and let's talk about maybe some solutions that we have available to us as practitioners and practice owners. And one of those solutions, and I've been a vet for over 20 years now, and I think I remember when we first started had the option of care credit. And it was specifically when I was practicing doing overnights by myself in central Houston. And so it was always a relief to me, both as a pet owner, having to utilize care credit sometimes, and also as a practitioner who is then given, the green light and some, keys to be able to deliver, some, better medicine. Um, so can you tell me the impact that you've observed when a practice effectively integrates care credit into their workflow?
So I'm a big systems person, write books on it. And I do think that this goes back to the conversation of bringing the whole team together to talk about the financial policy. And it goes to the fact that we should have a system for communicating and enrolling clients in care credit, whether that's through the website or in the lobby of the practice. But it comes down to um, recognizing that 7 out of 10 pet owners see their pet as a member of the family, which means they want to do all that they possibly can. And our job is to give them the resources, whether it's through preventative care and financial resources, to be able to provide those services. It is amazing to me how many pet owners don't know that there is insurance for pets. It is amazing to me how many pet owners don't have cash flow for their own pets. And I don't know if I said this on this conversation or not. Veterinary medicine is a service industry that provides healthcare. We're not a healthcare industry. We're a service industry. So Service is first. If you want to be able to take care of the pet, you have to provide service. Well, service means understanding the needs of your clients. And that means understanding where the pet fits into the household, the nervousness and anxieties that they have about the costs of care and the affordability of care, and the fact that the spend is discretionary income. So the conversation about care credit is an ongoing nudge from the staff to help clients recognize that at some point in time in that 15-year average life expectancy of a cat, or 15-year the average expected life expectancy of a dog, the dog's going to get sick. The cat's going to vomit up a hairball, and it could be something benign or it could be something. And so proactive medicine should be paralleled with proactive financing so that we don't have to worry about making a decision in crisis mode. We're making a decision in the best interest of the pet without that anxiety that's already there because the pet is sick.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And just to remind everybody to learn more about Care Credit for veterinary practices, you can go to carecredit.com/vet insights and access the pet lifetime of care study that Peter has been referring to at Synchrony at petlifetimeofcare.com. And you can connect directly with Peter Weinstein over LinkedIn. And how else should we be able to connect with you as well?
I think the best place is through LinkedIn. I mean, I've got so many other resources, but LinkedIn is the best place to find me and the best place to reach out to me through. Thank you.
So let's turn our attention toward the practical implementation for veterinary practices. And so, for practice owners listening today, what would you say are the top 3 ways to normalize financial conversations?
So, preventative prevention. It's a lot cheaper to prevent disease than it is to treat it. And it's a lot easier to plan for financial insecurity than to treat it. So I think it's important for pet owners who might be listening to ask without fear, what is this going to cost? And to ask, can any of this be delayed? Or is all of this necessary? I just had some service done at the house that was going to be fairly costly. And I said, do we need to do it now or can it wait? And I don't think that's an unreasonable question to be asked. And I think as veterinarians, we need to be prepared for these types of questions and be able to answer those with support of the pet owner. So I think that the pet owner needs to understand that veterinary medicine comes with a cost and that as a pet owner, you need to be prepared for that. I think as the veterinarian, we need to be prepared for the difficult questions that the clients are going to ask and to make that question a normal part of the conversation, which means maybe it's me as the doctor, preferably not, but maybe it's a manager, maybe it's a client service team. But everybody needs to be able to answer those questions. And so I challenge my managers, friends that are out there, to have some staff meetings where you role play difficult clients and even normal clients and come up with some scripts and come up with some ways to constantly be communicating to the clients to make them feel more comfortable. Listen, the desexing procedure, spays and neuters are not inexpensive these days. Just walking into the hospital for an exam is not inexpensive these days. I think we as a profession are very good at compassion for the patient. I think we have to integrate additional compassion for the client, and I think a client should expect that as well. We need to be prepared to answer difficult questions, and I really would suggest that you take the Care Credit Lifetime of Care study, which I'll block my face with for just a second, and go over it with your staff because there's an interesting page in the middle that shows in bubbles what some of the more common anxieties that pet owners have: hit by a car, dog sick, need surgery. Everybody, very few people truly understand the cost of veterinary care. Even fewer understand the costs that we have to deliver veterinary care. We need to bring better communication together, which means clients asking questions comfortably and staff members answering those questions with just as much comfort.
Yeah. I think you perfectly explained the role that financial solutions can play in helping clients say yes to more of the wellness plans, some of the diagnostics and preventative care, rather than deferring or delaying treatment. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, $1,000 bill is a big elephant for more than 50% of the people. But can that be broken up into smaller bite-sized pieces? Let's even look at wellness. I mean, wellness, when you start to add flea tick and heartworm, can start to push $400, $500 when you're looking at 6 months to 12 months of preventative. Can that be broken up into smaller bite-sized pieces? So how can we make the meal more palatable? Looking at the invoice being the meal, how can we make the meal more palatable? And maybe it's because we can say, okay, this is what we're going to do visit one today. Come back in 6 weeks, we'll do this. 6 weeks later, we'll do this. And so instead of having one visit of $600, you now have 4 visits at 150 or 200, which might be more tolerable in a world where most people don't have a pet healthcare budget. Care Credit allows people to have a pet healthcare budget that's sitting in their back pocket for when they need it.
Yeah, and I know, the statistics on people that would have to go into debt if they ended up with $1,000 vet bill, and it's more than half of us. And so, yeah, to have those options are really helpful, I think, and for all three parties involved. Um, so if we're going to take a look ahead and we're looking at building sustainable veterinary businesses, what trends are you seeing in pet owner behavior or expectations that reinforce the need for integrated financial solutions?
So we're having this conversation in the second quarter of 2025, in a time of tremendous economic uncertainty and employment issues, cost issues at all sorts of levels, concerns about inflation. And I think people are starting to tighten up their wallets, and appropriately so, because eggs and gas and milk are all been quite costly. So I think it's important as veterinary hospitals to understand the external economic environments that impact us and the fact that it's very likely that pet owners are going to come in with financial concerns now that they may never have had before, that they may look to euthanasia quicker because of the costs of care from that standpoint, and that it's important for us to empathize with them, work with them, and find solutions for them so that we can give their pet the opportunities for a full lifetime of comfortable care and life. I think it's important for us to have these conversations with our staff members because many of our staff members need to understand the economic challenges that are out there because they're going to be taking the phone calls. They're going to be greeting the clients when they come through the door. And so the more options that we can offer to pet owners regarding the cost of care, and the more transparent we are about those conversations, not in an in your face fashion, but in a fashion that says, we are concerned, we want to do everything we can. AVMA and Care Credit have done some great work on the language of care. You can find this on the AVMA websites. They've got these flip cards and everything else. There is some specific verbiage that you can use to help make clients feel more comfortable. This time, more than any other in the recent past, is a great time to work on those conversations and get the verbiage down so that the clients who are coming in nervous for the first time about their abilities to pay for their pet's care, you can make feel more comfortable. We make We're building relationships. Our job is to take care of that pet from kittenhood to adulthood and to aftercare. Same thing with dogs. And I think to do so, we have to make the clients feel comfortable. And the most important thing we can do is get them to trust us. And that's what I think we need to do is we need to focus on relationships and building trust with the thought of a client coming in for 15 years and contributing upwards of $20,000 for a dog and 15 or $16,000 for a cat to our practice and not just be transactional, which is, we're going to only see them once. This is all about building relationships and building trust.
Yeah. And it's important not to have assumptions or hold judgment for people that are in different situations that we are. And we have to have an open mind and realize what the realities of people's finances are.
Absolutely. And I think it goes to, since we are a service industry and we're going to be competing for airplane tickets and movie tickets and Air Jordans, etc., make sure that you have a great value proposition and that you can provide great value. And some of that is just time and answering questions, which is why team-based healthcare, where everybody on the team is singing the same music. So it's not all doctor centric. It's how many people on your team can make that client feel comfortable. And the value comes from the value of care, which in many cases can mitigate the cost of care if people feel that they're getting a value for your time, your services, and your communication, because really it's about communication and comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. If you were to design a forward thinking veterinary practice model, how do you envision financial tools would be embedded into that client experience from day one?
Great question. Boy, somebody gave you some great questions. Yeah, no, I know they're yours. Um, so forward thinking, basically, whether it is sending things to new clients ahead of time, making sure that it's front and center on your website so clients have access to it, whether it's a link on the website that says, um, you know, all your financial questions about veterinary care answered here. Uh, I think we can take advantage of social media. I think we could take advantage of email and text and just make sure that we're getting clients to understand. I really do go back to my user's manual because honestly, I could go through and line out what I want in terms of visits for my beagle, my golden retriever, my cat, my mixed breed, my purebred, whatever it is, and give them an idea of what the estimated costs would be on a per annum basis so that they can prepare for it. I could also talk to them about specific breed conditions that might occur, hip dysplasia, cancer, whatever. And now we're being transparent with the clients about what they might expect. I think when you buy certain cars that they will come with more problems and certain cars with less problems and certain cars you spend more for service and certain cars you spend less for service. We don't have to have these conversations. I think it's our job to do so. And whether that's done virtually or whether that's done in person, I think we have so much technology that we can use right now to fully and clearly explain to clients what the cost of care is and whether by the way, I do like membership models as well. I do like wellness plans as well. I think anything that helps take and make money secondary or tertiary in the conversation is going to help us strengthen that relationship and build further trust.
Yeah. That's such a good summary of everything, actually. Um, One last thing. What would you say are the most common missed opportunities, both in patient outcomes and in business performance?
It goes back to one of the things I said right at the beginning. If we build a practice built upon the fact that we want a 15-year relationship with a pet, then we're always thinking about the client coming back and the patient coming back. And we want to help them come back in as often as they are comfortable with for whatever needs might exist. But if I were to say missed opportunities, I think it's sometimes focusing on today and a transaction versus focusing on trust and a relationship. Because if Dr. Cornelius is only seen one time at a $250 invoice, then you're probably missing out on $20,000 of opportunity income if that patient were to come in for the next 15 years. So if I were to suggest the biggest missed opportunity is our failure to look down the road, to program the direction we want to go long term and be so focused inwardly on that 10 or 15 minutes in the exam room and not the long-term relationship.
Thank you so much, Dr. Weinstein, for joining us for this episode. We really, really appreciate your participation. And again, want a special thank you for our sponsor, Care Credit, and for making today's conversation possible. We know that affordability is one of the biggest concerns pet owners face, and Care Credit offers a simple, flexible solution that can help clients move forward with care without delay, subject to credit approval, of course. With over 270,000 enrolled providers and decades of experience in healthcare financing, Care Credit has become an essential partner in the veterinary space. You can catch us and listen to us and subscribe on, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you care to join the conversation, please tag at Care Credit and at Peter Weinstein on LinkedIn or Instagram with your thoughts and takeaways from the episode. Thank you, everybody.